Hi everyone, I'm Dusty and welcome back to my lab. Today we're going to do my first podcast, so this is going to be as much a technical run as anything, I think. Oops, now I'm showing the wrong thing. This is my regular channel. I gotta... How do I get out of my studio dashboard? Can't get out of there now. Okay. Oh, that's embarrassing. Anyway, okay. Here's my plan. What we're gonna do is, I'm basically just gonna run through my different topics here, and rather than like do a reaction to each one, I'm gonna more do a response. So kind of my idea is I'm gonna basically treat all of these as recommendations. I'm right now gonna just check and make sure that this is actually working right. Yeah, it's working right. Okay. Alrighty. Well, seems like everything's working, and I'm just going to continue on here. So, first up is Adam Ragusea. This was probably one of the most informative videos that I have seen by him, but all of his stuff I've been watching a ton of recently, and
is the act of preserving food.
Something that's going to be tricky is me knowing how loud this is for you guys.
As submerging the food in vinegar or lime juice for a real long time. As long as you get the...
He does a mix of stuff. This one is, I think he was a teacher originally. I think just a high school teacher. Not that, you know, that there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, he was just teaching high school and decided to start making videos. And he's great. I mean, his format is great. Anything that he's doing is educational. I mean, he does a pretty much off-the-cuff podcast. I don't know if he does it live for his patrons or what the deal is, but he's awesome. Yeah, so he'll do fully informative things like this, great videography and just examples. He does, and he also runs his own experiments. What was the example that I had? Oh man, I've seen a couple of them now where he did his own experiments. Oh yeah, dry pasta. So he did a couple experiments where he would basically do baked pasta dishes, either pre-boiling and pre-cooking the pasta or not, and super informative, super helpful, and has given me a lot of ideas of what I can do in the kitchen and make my life a little bit easier. Okay, something else I've been getting into, and ironically, it's actually, I started getting into it kind of because of something later in the list, ChatGPT, but I saw someone in a Discord chat say that ChatGPT, well, they printed a log of like their conversation with ChatGPT, and they just asked it, like, what do you think is the most credible or most supported by evidence theory for the nature of reality? I think it was, you know, the gist of it, and it pointed towards the many worlds hypothesis, and I had heard of it, and I kind of had my own take on it, so I finally took the time and learned a little bit more about it. And I'd always kind of avoided quantum mechanics because I just didn't feel like I had gotten the regular mechanics down yet, but I feel like I had gotten to a point now where I understand it at least enough to start dabbling in it, and so I found a few really good channels. Someone else I should have put on here is Sabine Hassenfelder, I think is her name, something like that. Definitely an H, starts with an H, the last name. She's probably my favorite physics channel. She does a great job, but Arvin who's coming up here is also great. He probably is going to usurp that title. The first video I have here is by See the Pattern, which I actually just recently found. I haven't really watched many of their other videos. And actually, also ironically, I haven't even digested or started to think about this last pilot wave theory. This video talks and starts with the Copenhagen interpretation, which is kind of like the most widely accepted version of this, and then gets into the many worlds interpretation, which is kind of where I'm leaning right now. But it's like, you know, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I don't really know much about this yet. I'm just, you know, beginning to think about it, but just trying to keep an open mind. I think that pretty much the most telling and interesting experiment that like the most illuminating is probably the double slit experiment, and then the variations on that, like the quantum eraser, which the quantum eraser, Sabine has a video on. I haven't I don't even understand exactly what she's trying to say. Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the double slit experiment a little bit, I think that it's evidence for many worlds. I think that this general thought is like has a lot of validity in general, and then this thought leads itself to the many worlds interpretation, and it's just that if anything exists at all, then probably everything does. You know, it's just what we're able to see and what universe, if you want to think of it that way, we happen to be in, what we're consciously experiencing, you know, collectively right now. I mean, the thing is that I don't really buy with the purely Copenhagen interpretation of the double slit is it's just the idea is that it interferes with itself, that the particle interferes with itself, whether it's a photon or an electron shot through a gun. And if it interferes with itself, then how can it be interfering with itself if it's purely mathematical probability? It's like, if it's just probability, then you would think that it only takes one path, and then it's just a probabilistic one. Whereas if it's many worlds, then in a sense the possible worlds are interfering with one another, and they just haven't been determined yet by. And that's the other thing. Like, I feel like there's overly there's too much emphasis and thought put into the idea of the observation of quantum phenomena. I think that it's that, and Arvin and a couple other channels I follow talk about this, including Sabine, that it's just the decoherence aspect of quantum entanglement. Well, not entanglement, even though that's the odd thing about it. Like when we talk about quantum entanglement, it seems like we talk about a specific phenomena that's relevant, which is how the spins of quantum particles will be predictable but opposite, and then what happens when we measure one, and how it seems to be action at a distance. But really, like, the idea of observation in general is kind of the act of, like, super entanglement. I don't know, like entanglement with the rest of the world, with other things, and like the thought of like or the thinking that consciousness has something to do with it is irrelevant. It has to do with just interacting with some property of our universe. That's probably less helpful than helpful, but anyway, yeah, watch Arvin and watch Sabine.
Wave function for a quantum object.
This stuff is great.
Made of any substance other than the information about the object.
I think that Arvin is probably has the most concise and highest production quality videos as far as physics right now, but yeah, he even features Sabine in this, I guess. All right, moving on. Oh yeah, this is great. If you guys don't watch Red Letter, you definitely should.
A nostalgia lover shells out big bucks to go back in time. A near mint condition sealed.
Yeah, so basically, if you watch Red Letter, they're just a group of guys, film critics, you know, schmucks they would probably call themselves, from Wisconsin, who just started doing videos reviewing different movies and stuff, and producing their own movies, and they're competent filmmakers. It's but what they decided to do is do basically a social experiment and tried to raise money with their Nukie tapes, which people have, I honestly, it was before the time of me watching the channel, but people just started sending them this horrible B-movie Nukie, and anyway, they've been hoarding them, and now what they did is they got one VHS verified, like certified by a business, which is apparently like a scam in and of itself, but so, and then they destroyed the rest of them to create false scarcity, and hopefully people send them more and they can continue to drive up the price of it. They wound up selling this tape on eBay, I think, for $80,000 or more, a little bit more, and all of it's going to charity. I think St. Jude's and something else. So it's pretty awesome. They're good guys, and long live Rich Evans, obviously. Okay, move on. Oh yeah, this is crazy and really worrisome. If you don't follow Tech Ingredients, you also definitely should. They do great experiments and just educational videos. And poor dude almost lost his eye, and like the most unexpected and unexpected if you watch the channel, and he goes on to say that way, and that's they found some old fireworks in his son's garage or something, and they took him out, and he wanted to light one off to try it out, so see what he was dealing with before New Year's, I think it was. That might be not true. I'm not sure. They were going to celebrate for something, so he was like doing a test run of one of these mortar tubes, and lit it. Fuse goes in. Minutes go by. Nothing happens. He walks up to it. Sure enough, it explodes all at once. The whole thing explodes, and thankfully he wears prescription glasses because a piece of shrapnel, bruised up his eye really bad. If you look at this here, I think you can see it here. Yeah, look at. I mean, that this is after he's healed a bit too. It was no bueno. So yeah, try to expect the unexpected when it comes to anything potentially hazardous or dangerous. It's like even if it shouldn't happen, it doesn't mean that it won't. So try to he's super careful. I think he was a college professor before he retired, and now this is his gig to stay busy. But yeah, always wear safety glasses if you're dealing with anything that could blow your eye out, because that's definitely a point of weakness here. ChatGPT, okay, yeah. So, I don't know. There's a lot of hype and gripe about ChatGPT right now, and I mean it's inevitable. It is what it is. It's oh yeah, something else I probably should have linked on here. The Ray Kurzweil, Lex Fridman podcast. I don't know. I like Ray generally. I think that he's a little bit too obsessed with his own mortality, and I think that he's also a little bit overly enthusiastic about the idea of uplating yourself into a singularity and the whole idea of it in general. And I don't know. I mean, I didn't even watch the whole thing. I think that it's I think that any direction that we're going to move right now at this point into separating ourselves from our human experience is going to be a problem. And I think that we need to move in the opposite direction without simultaneously becoming Luddites, without rejecting all technology. As far as ChatGPT goes, and I mean, let's be honest, AI and machine learning in general, it's extremely powerful, and it's going to change the world. It already has. I think that something that people aren't really taking into account with this is that this is kind of, in my mind, the silver lining of AI, in that I've had conversations like this before with my buddy T-Pan at Nexus Void, that we've already taken AI and machine learning in general and pointed it at our worst, weakest spot, as human beings, which is, let's just have it advertised to us. And even that has a silver lining in that I've been recommended a lot of products and videos, because all this stuff is similar. It's like they change the knobs and what exactly it's tuned for, but at the end of the day, I mean, what it's doing is the same, whether it's selling you a product or a new video. It's just you have to like keep in mind that whatever you attend to is going to influence what you're going to be pushed in the future, and then just with that in mind, try to interact with it intelligently. And so even with like the horrible way that we've implemented it so far to basically just hijack and overtake your executive functioning and your decision even to like where you're going to spend your time and money, now we can actually do something that's beautiful with it. I mean, I think it's hard unless you have like just an inherent gripe against the whole idea in general. You have to admit that some of the stuff that the AI is making is beautiful, is awesome and beautiful, and at its best, I think it's a view into the creative unconscious, well, the collective unconscious of humanity. It just scrapes and recombines the things that we make, and fundamentally speaking, that's what all creativity is. So It's just like any piece of technology. There's a problem. It does it better or differently and functionally than a human, and that's useful for us. So, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, basically, but also be aware that this is potentially dangerous. So, this was really cool. So I just saw this yesterday or the day before.
This is an extra thumb. You know what?
Thought this was pretty cool, and don't want to watch too much of it, but saw it there.
Side here.
Basically, with these little
Use the device.
foot controllers inside of his shoes, he can move the finger up, like up, down, and then in and out. Pretty neat. And all 3D printed stuff. That woman there is the inventor, and she was basically trying to make prosthetics, but realized that because she doesn't have an amputation, she doesn't have any idea what it's like to actually wear these things. So she made an augmentation prosthetic that gives her an extra finger, which I think is really cool. And don't know a lot about this channel, just subscribed. But okay. Oh yeah, and then this was great too. Vice. Vice is hit or miss. I love what's his name, Taji. Taji is awesome when he does the 1-star reviews. That's like some of my favorite content on the internet right now. I thought this video was great. I thought that it was, generally really productive, and I think more stuff like this needs to happen. We have to identify the problems, and part of that is understanding one another's experiences and perspectives. So, we need to have people with varying experiences come together and try to figure out like what it means to be a human in any of the facets nowadays, because it just keeps getting more and more complicated. It's like, are we just becoming our social media profiles? Like, these are my attributes. This is my number, how much I make, whatever. It's like, just seems like everything's getting quantified and reduced. You're no longer a human. You're just a collection of attributes. Okay. Northridge fix. Another, if you're a techie, if you do any type of electronics work or whatever, this is probably a good subscribe / just look through their work. It's a lot of like, what would you call it? I don't know if he does them live. He probably does them live to certain people who want to see it. Live fixes of boards. And I haven't done any of this specific work. Definitely not micro soldering. My buddy Tim and I have fixed some boards. Just by identifying, oh, this is a bad component. It's obvious. We can see that it's broken. Whatever. Bean says hi. But this guy is great. Him and Louis Rossman is like the more mainstream version of this guy as far as like popularity and the content that he produces. Louis also has his right to repair thing going on, so he's kind of like a political / public figure, whereas this guy's just fixing boards, but he's great, and this is awesome. And he's commenting on a couple of like more mainstream PC enthusiast / build channels that screwed up a CPU repair, and shows you the right way to do it and like what was wrong. Basically, the gist is he had bad equipment. He had a cheap reflow station and whatnot, and because of that, he wasn't able to get it hot enough when he needed to, the way he needed to, and whatever. So, yeah, I mean that's in my own experience, it totally checks out, because it really, when it comes to soldering, it's all just what, like, your equipment, what stuff you have. If you're trying to solder without flux, it's like you'll get so far and then all of a sudden you won't, and it's like, yeah, you need to have something. So this is great. So I've just subscribed to Scott. Scott's awesome. He's kind of like no frills, more mature Cofeezilla, not to diss Coffee at all, because he's awesome, does a great job, produces very entertaining and informative work, and he's directly involved with and talks to Scott, from what I can understand watching their videos. But Scott basically, what would you say? I mean, he does the same thing that Coffee does, which is basically out and expose different influencers, usually trying to grift people out of money via crypto. So it's kind of a newer format as far as that goes, but he's great, and it's a little less frills than Coffee. Coffee hasn't uploaded in a while, I guess because of this controversy. I think I have also later on in this. Yeah, here we go. Ethan Klein's video about Logan Paul's pig. Logan Paul, look, it's dumb because I haven't even watched this video. I really hope that he did apologize, and if he formatted the title of this way, then he probably did, at least semi-legitimately, which is good. But the only defense that you can give of Logan Paul is perhaps that he has affluenza. You know, that like he's too privileged for his own good and hasn't had to actually answer for any of his mess ups. So maybe this will be the first time. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not only the crypto. So what the actual scandal is about, if you haven't looked into it at all, is Logan tried to release his own NFT trading card game, whatever that means. Like, if it's a pretty big umbrella, especially considering what he was considering that, which is you basically buy with these specific tokens that you have to convert from legitimate source of currency, these eggs, which then hatch, and then you can kind of randomly breed them. So it's like there's a random chance of it being whatever animal, and then you take your animals and rebreed them, and it's like this. It's like this recombination trading card NFT thing, and basically it was a giant fiasco, and there was never actually a product released, and Logan just tried to throw his developers under the bus and threatened to sue Cofeezilla. And since that, basically everyone said, Logan, you're insane, you can't do that, like, this is wrong, this is baseless, and so he took that video down, and now he's uploaded took that video down, and then he uploaded a new one, which I guess is him apologizing, I don't know. So, here's the thing, the guy has affluenza. Hopefully he gets better. Like what more do you want to say? It's like hopefully he does better. Hopefully he grows from his mess ups, mistakes, learns from them, moves on. I'll be the first one to allow him to do that if he wants to do that, and especially if he wants to try to make up for the things that he's done wrong with the power and influence that he's accumulated. But if he's just going to use that power and influence to continue to do nasty, horrible things, and it's like, then I can't get behind that. So it's you can't, you gotta try to strike a balance there. This was pretty cool. I only saw this a day or two ago. The gist of this is that Roman concrete lasts forever, at least relatively speaking. If you drive around and you see like concrete parking garages and stuff with rebar sticking out, and it seems like the stuff just crumbles almost as soon as it's built. And meanwhile, we have Roman concrete that's literally under salt water, and it survives and is still viable to this day. And apparently what it is they thought that these lime inclusions, which inclusion just means something foreign included in the makeup of whatever it is, the inclusion of these lime deposits was like a mistake rather than a feature. And what they found is that it basically creates self-healing properties, and that a crack will propagate to these lime deposits, and then it creates like a path for it naturally between them. And then also, once the water gets in there, it then basically dissolves that lime and fills in the crack that was produced to it. So literally like a self-healing block of concrete, which is pretty neat. And so it wasn't a mistake that they were that large and included that way. It was actually by design, it seems. So again, our assumption that something that seemed like a mistake is actually an engineering feature. This is a good channel too. Just found her, and haven't delved in too deep yet, but I thought this was a really good video. I'm a Tim Burton fan. I like a lot of his work. I mean, like this video says, a lot, especially like his earlier work. I thought it was great. It's influenced me a ton, and I think that he really brings something, if you can say nothing else, at least unique to the table. And it's just like anything, too much of it is bad. Never too much. It's just Tim Burton. One thing that this does make one point is that Tim Burton was never as much of an outcast or like an outsider from the industry as he would like to say or make people believe, and that does seem valid and backed up by the facts that she brings up here. But I mean, like Nightmare Before Christmas, geez, I'm blanking. Edward Scissorhands, it's all great. Oh, Donkey. If you don't follow Donkey, you definitely should. He's a cultural icon. He did a series on Donkey Kong, and I thought it was awesome, very informative. Just understanding the progress of like early electronics and thus video games is super interesting to me, and I think a lot of like more people should be aware of it and understand it. It kind of like demystifies the world a bit, I think. Yeah, I did like 5 or 6 videos on Donkey Kong, which his name is Video Game Donkey. I'm pretty sure it's about Donkey Kong. I'm pretty sure. Nate Hagens. So Nate Hagens and Daniel Schmachtenberger, just to plug their names. This isn't an interview with Daniel Schmachtenberger, but these two guys are kind of the two main guys in my mind that are working on Existential Crisis right now, and I follow them both really closely. Daniel Schmachtenberger sounds like a fake name, but it isn't. So yeah, just look it up. He's real. Nate he used to be a professor, might still be doing some professing. I don't know. He focuses on how the world is quote unquote energy blind, which basically just means that we have no idea how our energy is produced and the intricacies of our energy grid. And I think he's 100% correct. And so we should follow him and support him. Yeah, then Ethan Klein and Logan Paul's pig, to circle back around here. Yeah, apparently Logan Paul bought a teacup pig with his girlfriend at the time, like 2 or 3 years ago. And if you don't know this, you should. That there is really no such thing as a teacup pig. They like that's a misnomer. That they don't exist. Like the only way that you get a teacup pig is if you severely emaciate the pig when it's in its development stage, and even then it isn't really a sure bet. Pigs will kind of like, this is not really true, but they'll kind of like fill their environment. So like, and they kind of adjust and adapt to their environment. So like a domesticated pig, if you let it out in the wilderness, will actually like grow tusks and like become a boar, by my understanding, and will kind of get different genetic expression, which is pretty amazing. But either way, he buys this pig, and then as pigs do, it gets enormous. It's like 500 or 600 pounds or something. And he can't take care of it and doesn't want to. And apparently the way that he rehomed it, it wound up in a field, like, with another dead pig. And so just it seems like he was negligent in his rehoming, which, it's like, okay, if you want to rehome the pig, but at least do your due diligence and get rid of the pig the right way and not just putting it in a field. Anyway, how money works. Haven't watched a ton of. I've watched like 3 or 4 of these videos. It's definitely a good channel to subscribe to. This was the first video that I watched, probably the one that I would recommend the highest. And it's worrying and concerning. Just how our economy is moving. Something that I learned, a term that I learned recently, is called blitzscaling, which is kind of like the Uber model, where it's like, you don't have a profitable product, but you just keep getting investors. I mean, the truth is that, like, it really feels like a legitimized Ponzi scheme, where you're not actually selling something that's profitable. You're selling the idea of something that's profitable and a bunch of interaction with it and audience capture, if you want to call it that. It's like, here's our plan. We're going to release this app where the people using it are the product, and it might not be profitable immediately, but just wait, you know, we'll figure out a way to. We have these people in our pockets. It's like, well, it works and it doesn't. It's like, you know, it's time to pay the piper here, as far as Uber, and where's it going to come from? It's like, you know, the prices are going up. The drivers hardly make any money anyway. It's like, it's a mess. This was a crazy video. I think this guy was on Joe Rogan too. But this channel, Rebel Wisdom, is great. I would definitely go check them out. It's like, what would you say? I don't know. I think it's really like kind of an eclectic project by this one guy who does all the interviews. This is, yeah, I mean, this is Schmachtenberger right here. That's him. So he's interviewed Schmachtenberger. Here he interviewed McGilchrist. It's usually him interviewing different relevant figures. This is insane though. He talks about MK Ultra and just the stuff that was going on in the 60s, and frankly, I mean, militarization of psychoactive substances and some pretty shady stuff, man. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. You got to look into it. It's really disturbing, you know, that like it isn't public knowledge, and that what else is our government doing right now? And you know, I don't want to be like a tinfoil hatter. It's like, oh, you know, got to watch out for the government. It's like, I hate that, because it's like the government is such an amorphous, like, non-word. You know, it's like it's not productive anyway, unless you're gesturing at something very vague. It's like, I don't know. You know, it's like fundamentally you'd like to hope that it was individuals and making bad decisions, and not just like the whole thing being designed for conspiracy. Alright, this was a great video. This was super informative. Haven't watched hardly any of this guy's videos. I think I like clicked on one other one, but this could save you. You know, like he talks about how these jump starters sometimes will just not work, and how to put them into boost mode or whatever. And I mean, yeah, he shows how like this thing, if basically the idea is if the battery is too dead, then these things won't sense that it's actually hooked up to a battery, and thus it won't output the juice. So you got to put it in boost mode or whatever, and basically just override that and have it just be 2 hot leads that you can then charge your battery with. James Bruton, this guy is next level. I mean, he's just a really, really skilled and talented maker, and he makes this crazy, basically videography assistant, where he can give it gestures and it'll just like change how and what it's shooting, and it like automatically tracks him. It's wild. It like incredible undertaking, and he nails it. So definitely watch his stuff. He, you know, it's like every week he uploads something insane like that. This was great. Gamer from Mars is like, I don't know. He's kind of like a guilty pleasure. I don't want to like come off as insulting, but he does like this, I don't even know what you'd call it, like 90s true crime documentary style deal. I could just show you the format right now.
And there's a time to sell cars. Even with the fallout, his career did not.
This was interesting, and I mean, I don't know. I felt enlightened and informed by this. I vaguely remembered the stuff about Shy, like putting the flag up in the middle of the field or whatever when this was happening, and just how ridiculous that was, and just wow, this guy's he really flushed a lot down the toilet. You can see. But yeah, I mean, Gamer from Mars is definitely a good subscription. Subscribe to him. And then finally, my buddy Nexus Void. So, it's a 35-minute podcast, 40-minute podcast. If I get in the future, if I get more questions, then, you know, we can treat this as like an Ask Me Anything as well, and I don't know. I'm imagining probably in the future my Live Lab podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it, and then this being merged together, where I'll kind of like field questions / inquiries as people make them, when I'm like doing just an overview of what I saw this past week, and then, you know, maybe jump into something technical and do a little how-to or explanatory thing. But yeah, for now, I think I'm just going to try to, I mean, podcasts are all about schedules. I'm sorry that, oh yeah, I forgot to say in the beginning of this, I'm sorry that I delayed this like 3 or 4 days. It's been kind of a crazy weekend. But I think what my format for now is going to be is I'm going to do a live lab on Thursday, and then I'm going to do a podcast on Friday or Saturday. And it's going to be like this. And I don't want to like do a ton of time like doing reactions unless people really want that. I kind of like responses like this a little bit better. I'd rather, you know, have already watched 90% of what I'm gonna talk about. Yeah, guys, I'll probably be doing this again. Honestly, since this got delayed 3 days, I'll still do it on Friday. That's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna try to do it on Friday, probably at 3 p.m. Just because then people, you know, even on the West Coast can watch it at noon. And all right, thanks guys. Bye.